Welcome back to another edition of Tuesday's Thought. Thanks so much, family, for joining us. As usual, we're going to ask that you share, like the video, make sure you're engaged in the comments, tag somebody, subscribe, and all that good stuff before we get into the topic of discussion. Because tonight's topic is Own It. Own it, own it, own it. Okay, so tonight I'd like to talk to you about taking ownership. All right? And I don't mean take ownership in the sense of, owning a home or owning a car, although those are very, by most people's standards, those are very good things and things to aspire to. But that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about taking ownership of yourself, taking ownership of your past, taking ownership of your present, and owning your future. All right. So it pretty much goes without saying that although all of us has a past, none of us can go back and change the past. So be that whether you've experienced difficulty, traumatic circumstances in the past, maybe you've struggled, you've had to endure a lot of challenges. That also goes for, good times. You may have experienced some of the greatest successes in your past. You may have enjoyed a fantastic childhood into adolescence. Life has just been grand. Things have been great. Regardless of where you land, the past is just not something that any of us can go back and alter. And that's okay, right? Because the point that I'd like to make tonight is that regardless of what we've experienced, where we've been, what we had to go through, it is incumbent on us to take ownership, to own that past. So the negativity that you've experienced in your past, as an example, let's just say it's failure, right? Most of us have failed at something, right? Whether it be failing a test, or it could have been a failed business, failed relationships, whatever it might be. Even in that failing experience, or even in having gone through that failure, there is something that you can pull from it. There is something that we were designed to glean from it. In fact, the very fact that you're still standing, that you made it through, is a signal that that situation was not designed to break you. In fact, it was most likely designed to build you. It was designed to show you something about yourself, to teach you something that you may not otherwise have uncovered or have learned. It was designed to propel you into a different level of wisdom, of understanding. It was likely designed to propel you into your next. Now, mind you, I'm not suggesting that we embrace and we kind of, we coddle and we hold on to trauma and hurt and pain and all of that. That's not really where I'm going. But what I am trying to highlight is that so often we tend to want to run away from and distance ourselves from our past, especially those not so pleasant experiences. But I want to encourage you, that is a part, it was designed to shape who you are. That is a part of who you are. And so you need to own it. It's so interesting. I was listening to somebody speak, and they were talking about the Alcoholics Anonymous setup. So if you were to go to an AA meeting, as they're called, now I'm not sure if this is how it's still done today, but for the most part, when you go to one of those meetings, the person who's attending will stand up and say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I am an alcoholic." And what they're doing in that moment is they're taking ownership of the reason that brought them to that meeting, of the reason why they're there. Why? Because the first step to really accessing help and to growth, the first step is acknowledgement. And so in taking ownership of ourselves, in order for us to be able to move to the next step, it's important that we embrace who we were. Embrace not only what you experienced and what you grew through, but embrace the tools that you now get to take with you from having lived through that past experience. And as I said, don't just look at it as the negative, right? It's not just the negative experience. It is also those positive experiences. What our past does is it equips us. It gives us the tools that we need to be in our now. And that's why we need to own that. And so that takes us into owning your now. You cannot go back and change what happened yesterday. You today, in this moment, every day that you wake up to see a brand new day, are given another opportunity to impact what's lying ahead. You take ownership of those 24 hours that you have, right? So that means I'm going to draw on those tools. I'm going to draw on those lessons that I learned from yesterday, bringing them into my today to make sure that my tomorrow is where I want it to be. I'm going to make sure that the moments that I have are intentionally spent on being the best me that I can be. I'm going to make sure that those things that were a disappointment to me yesterday, in today, I'm doing what needs to be done to ensure that they are no longer disappointments to me. Yes, I may not be where I intend to be, where I desire to be, but I have a new now. I have now. And so I need to ask myself, well, what am I doing with today? I can't change the past, and I certainly can't predict the future. I can't influence the future necessarily because it hasn't happened yet. So what am I going to do now? The question becomes, how am I going to own my today? I am responsible for the 24 hours in the day that I'm given. I am responsible for the decisions that I make today that will impact my tomorrow. There's a saying that says, the seeds that you sow today will be the harvest that you reap tomorrow. So what am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my focus? What am I doing with my energy? What am I doing with my resources today, now? I have to be a good steward over that in my now. I need to own my now. Now, you might be tempted to get stuck on yesterday's regret, yesterday's disappointment. But you need to ask yourself the question, how is that helping me today? If I get stuck on that, how is that helping me now? It's not, other than if I'm taking the lessons that I've learned to redirect my actions for today. Let me give you this example. It's like if I know that I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to get in shape, okay? I have some decisions to make today. I have some decisions to make about the food that I'm gonna eat. I have some decisions to make about my level of activity. I have some decisions to make about whether I get enough rest. I have to own my now in order to impact what it is that I anticipate seeing in my future. And so that takes us to owning your future. Understand, no one has the ability to predict the future. We know this. We don't know about tomorrow. We don't know what our next day will hold. In fact, you don't know what the next moment will hold. But that does not leave us with an excuse to not have visions, to not make goals, to not strategize, to not plan. And of course, we do this all with the leading of the Lord. You might say to me, well, Claudine, St. Matthew chapter 6, and it says, take no thought for tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And that, you're correct. That's Bible. But that's not telling you don't have a strategy. Don't envision for tomorrow, right? Don't become consumed by the future because you don't know what the future holds. But certainly, you should have insight, foresight. You should have something that's motivating you and propelling you. You should have a desire to see your tomorrow better than your today. So that takes us to the scripture text that I want to anchor this thought in for tonight. Now, I have to own the fact that I'm getting older, so I need glasses. I'm not going to be able to see. Give me a moment while I put them on. Owned it. Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8 says, "Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter." So there it is. Even though you cannot predict the future, we can pull from this the principle that we're not just designed to stay stuck in our now, but we have to take ownership in some ways for the future by building for it, by planning for it, by strategizing for it, just like the ants did here. And I love how the language is lazy bones, right? In some other translations, it's sluggard or slacker. And sometimes it's not just about physical laziness, that you don't want to get up off the couch. But we are guilty of mental laziness, emotional laziness. We don't want to think far enough ahead to implement a strategy. So what do? Well, we rely on hubby, or we rely on wifey. We rely on parents, mom, dad, sister, brother. We rely on colleagues. We rely on the boss. We rely on pastor. It's everybody else's responsibility to think for us, right? Or to make the next move, or to plan for us. And we're not taking ownership. But tonight, I'm encouraging you. It's for each and every one of us to take ownership of our future. Take ownership of your past. Embrace those lessons that you were taught. Embrace the tools that you received as a result of going through your experiences. Embrace your now. That means recognize where you are. You may not be where you want to be as yet. You may not like the path or the road that life has led you down to get to where you are now, but accept where you are now. Say to myself, you know what? I know I'm not where I want to be, but look how far I've come. And just because I've come this far, that does not give me an excuse to stop working. So tonight, the theme of the day, the moral of the story, is it's on you to take complete ownership. Don't neglect the past. Don't negate the past. Don't neglect your present. And certainly don't neglect your future. Recognizing that your life and your times are all in God's hands, but you have to own your part. Put in the work, and you will see the results. You'll reap the fruit of your sowing. God bless you, and as always, my prayer for you is that the peace of God will be with you and yours. Take care until we see you next time.